Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for watching. Today's Tech Therapy discussion is on whether you can go from an OLED back to mini LED. Many of you were surprised to see the Bravia 9, the one true flagship from Sony, be introduced as a mini LED. Same with Samsung's AK QN900D Neo QLED mini LED as their main standalone flagship. TCL, Hisense, their flagships, mini LED. Their large premium TVs, mini LED, leaving LG as the only one with their flagship being an MLA OLED. Now, if you've had an OLED of any kind, and you are maxed at a certain size, or you want the flagship from other brands, the question for you is, can you go from OLED back to mini LED? We'll have my partner in crime, Stop the FOMO, in today for that very discussion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, I'm here with my partner in crime, Stop the FOMO. FOMO, how are you, my friend?
Hey, just got back from your neck of the woods. We were in New York shooting our super duper 7.5 hour marathon with the star being the nachos that we ate near the end. And I love that we were able to watch the TVs go from daylight to dark over 7.5 hours. I thought it changed everything. And the whole time, and I know you already did the intro for this, but the whole time we're answering questions about the TVs that were there, the G4 and the S95D. And Bravia 9 kept on popping up. Well, what about the Bravia 9? But look at the 900D. Doesn't it look so good? Yeah. But can the Bravia 9 beat it? Can the Bravia 9 do this? Just like last year, where we were comparing the G3 to the S95C. Well, what about the A95L?
So
Sony did it again.
And that's so not only did Sony pretty much hijack that stream for us, was basically to paint it for you. If you didn't see that stream, we'll definitely link it below. We had the G4 83 inches versus the S95D 77 inches. And we also had the QN900D Neo QLED mini LED off to the right at 75 inches. Most people watching were concerned about the 900D. They wanted to know how that TV would perform. How was it set up? Then the conversation was, how do you think the Bravia 9 would measure up? Now, if you told me that we would have an MLA top of the line versus a QD OLED top of the line, and the question would still be mini LED, I would have been shocked. But FOMO, the bigger question is this. Since our coverage, it's been questions for me with the Bravia 9 since we were in LA together at Sony's global launch, which was amazing. Could I leave OLED? Could you leave OLED? And here's why it's an interesting question. And it just occurred to me. Every manufacturer's flagship is a mini LED, except for LG. Once our group saw Sony excel with the A95K and the A95L, we all thought mini LED was going to be relegated to cheap value. We said last year, and you and I said this on a stream, hey, if you want LEDs, they're going to have to be either really large or cheap. Now, FOMO, they are actually leading. Companies are switching over. Samsung's true flagship is the QN900D. Hisense, obviously, UX, TCL, QMA, at all sizes, FOMO. We thought OLED was going to take over. Now, my question to you is, being somebody who's had OLEDs personally, can you switch to mini LED?
If it wasn't for our trip to Sony, watching the Bravia 9, and I'm going to talk about the Bravia 9 specifically, next to the Bravia 8, which is a WOLED, I probably would not have believed that this is a possibility. Now, for myself personally, because I know we're all different, many of you will just do or die OLEDs. I get it. And count me in that camp. QD OLED, definitely for critical watching, but watching just the infinite contrast of the Bravia 8 next to the Bravia 9, in the contents that I saw that were shared, whether it was just movie shots, movie scenes, their demo material, I was looking at the infinite contrast, and I saw the Bravia 9 looked like an OLED more often than not. Now, of course, in those scenes where, there's some of that shadow detail, the infinite contrast is better. It was a little bit better, and I was looking for it. But overall, if I brought 10 guys out off the street, 10 men and women, it would go, Bravia 9 looks great. And we're not talking it's brighter. Just scene for scene, it looks great. And then when you add in that extra brightness for certain scenes, the Bravia 9 takes over. And this is for content watchers, right? We're not talking gamers, who have your own particular specifications you're looking for. Just content watchers of streaming, HDR content, bright HDR, regular SDR. The Bravia 9 represents that, but to be fair to non-Bravia 9 mini LED, the Q900D is already there as well. So during our stream, how many people said, wow, the 100D looks really good? It does. So
Yeah.
I think we're at a point where mini LED, not just the Sonia with this special dimming, I mean, X95L last year, a lot of people said, I prefer that. And now the 900D is there, I believe, as well. So I think we're there. And this is before the Bravia 9 has even been released for us to compare side by side with other brands. But we know its potential. We're there.
Now, when we
Mini
talk
LED is
to
back.
Now, when we talk to most people, FOMO, I know we did a mini LED versus projector, and we knew that it was probably going to edge them out. But we always recommend, if you're coming from mini LED, easily go to OLED. If you're with mini LED, go to another mini LED. We almost never recommend going from OLED to mini LED. So we've
Agreed.
always said, what do you have now? Oh, I have an OLED. You're probably going to want to stay OLED. So
Yeah.
either go with an MLA OLED or a quantum dot OLED. This year is very interesting because I do think the G4 is a clear step above the others with its processing and MLA. The S95D also has the glare thing kind of taken care of. So
Mhm.
two of the biggest weaknesses for OLEDs have kind of been solved this year with two
Yeah.
flagships.
Mhm.
Not flagships, but one flagship. But I thought it was fascinating that LG is the only one that still has OLEDs as a flagship. We thought that maybe Samsung would switch it at some point, maybe kill 8K. Nope. The only processor they're really representing as the next level is on one TV.
Mhm.
So to see Sony, who had such success with the A95K and A95L, go to mini LED and then say, hey, look, there's no 8K coming either. This is our
And
one
there's
true.
no new OLED coming either, right? It's just this 4K mini LED.
Well, I mean, so we talked about the Bravia 8, which I think is awesome, but the Bravia 8 is very much like the A80L. Now, I will say this, in our viewing of the Bravia 9, which is mini LED, Bravia 8, just for context, and I'll show this while we're talking, we walk in the room for our own special recording session. The Bravia 9 is to the left, the Bravia 8 is right in the middle, then you had the Bravia 7 and the Bravia 5 FOMO. I meant the Bravia 3. You've been calling it the Bravia 5. Anyway, the Bravia 3 is in the corner. So, but what's funny is now, if they had all the same content, I would
Yeah.
agree with you. But the Bravia 8 had a night shot that I first thought it was the Bravia 9, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. There's something about an OLED that just cannot be matched. I have an A80L behind me. You see it in the background. Even in a bright room, it's still beautiful. So for me, even being a mini LED fan, here we are flip-flopping again, FOMO, because I was always the mini LED guy. I think the bright G4 with the micro contrast is enough. And I think because there's an 83 inch now, I'd have a hard time jumping to another size. Now, somebody getting into the market, though, you would go mini LED first, you think?
Okay, so you just set up the perfect scenario.
That's how we roll, not even
Imagine,
scripted.
imagine you and me. We got a 65-inch C1. 3 years into it, we're at the C4, G4 now. So you got the C1 or the C10, even the C9, right?
Yep.
And it's a C series. You've heard about this MLA. You're saying, I'm waiting for the 83 inch. I'm waiting for the 83 inch MLA. This year it comes. G4 83 inch. Going from a 65 to the 83, boom. That's exactly what I want to see from you with the extra brightness. And then the Bravia 9 comes out. It is definitely an option. I'll tell you why. You're getting not quite the infinite contrast, but you're getting even more HDR pop for $1,000 less. So you're coming from a C9, C10, C1. You have a budget, and you're thinking, wait, the Bravia 9's 5,500. The G4 is over 6,000
Yes.
right now, 6,400. If it's that close, and I'm getting 85-inch, and it's near OLED-like, and I'm just a content watcher, right? I'm not a gamer. I would say to you, you know what? Save the $1,000. If it's really hurting you, get the Bravia 9, and I don't think you'll be taking a step back. Now, if you are just, light control room, I just love dark scenes. I need the perfect black. I have the specular highlight. Okay, I got you. But if you're watching in a normal mixed lighting room, I think the Bravia 9 will nail it. You're going to preserve a lot of the OLED quality that you enjoy for content watching, but you're going to get it at 85 inches with a mini LED HDR pop. And again, if the G4 by the time the Bravia 9 releases, drops its price to within a few hundred, I might get the G4 myself. But
Yeah.
as it stands, when it's $800 to $1,000 difference, I can tell you it's not that $800 better considering it's for content watching, not gaming. You know, that's another video. Content watching, streaming, video, TV videos, TV series, sports. And I'm thinking that Bravia 9 is going to kill it because of its price to performance ratio at 85 inches.
And that's an excellent point, FOMO, because what hurts the QN900D is it is very expensive. And we've
Oh,
seen with
yeah.
the AK lineup, when they first released them, they would drop off a cliff probably 6 months in. We've seen because they've had less inventory, they haven't really changed the price all that much towards the end of the year. The Bravia 9 kind of taking the place of a 4K flagship and an 8K flagship and melding all that into one TV to see the price as what it is. Now, we don't talk price much on video simply because by the time you go back to this video, but I think now, as you mentioned, was it $5,000 for an 85 inch?
The 85-inch Bravia 9 will start at MSRP before any discounts at around 5,500. And right now, the 900D is $8,000. So we know by Prime Day, it'll probably be 7, but still 7,000. G4
Yeah.
currently, it's still close to launch, 6,500. By Prime Day, maybe 6,200. Not a huge
Yeah.
discount, guys. Trust me, it's selling, it's flying off the shelves. So LG doesn't need to add any more discounts if
No,
they
no,
still
we
want to
can't
sell it,
even keep
right?
them in. But
Yeah,
so
so let's say 6,300, 5,500, and then 900D, 7,000.
So from the OLED fans, I would tell you the dismissal of the Bravia 9 right off the bat is it's old technology, repackaged as something else. Now we
Yes,
know
I'm
that
seeing
not
that
to
a
be
lot.
true. So we know that
Mhm.
not to be true. Even the QN900D is a new processor. So I'm even going to leave the 900D alone for a second. It's very impressive, especially on its own. The Bravia 9 is on a different level. It's achieving something else. It's going for 4,000 nits, not kind of 4,000 nits, and 4,000 nits with purpose. Shadow detail. But FOMO, I think the conversation about blooming is almost having to go away at this point at that level. The blooming was almost non existent, but it was the peak brightness and shadow detail. Because in the private comparisons, it went against QD OLED and it showed the settings on both, and we actually lost entire segments of the demo material. For me, seeing the Bravia 9 in a movie, we saw it on Venom, and they played the soundbar 9 too, the theater 9. And we watched Venom. You and I sat next to each other, and it was a real movie clip, and it was him riding a motorcycle, and the bullets were hitting off of the cars.
And
That
they turned off the lights. They turned off the
the
lights.
lights were
It
off,
was in the
but
dark.
that
Yeah.
so that pop, that HDR impact wasn't just in jewelry. It was whoa, whoa. I'm not
Yeah.
flinch. I was flinching legit. That's when I said, okay, forget about the demo material. What I see in movies is very important. Now, even me knowing that and seeing that, I still love OLED's infinite contrast. I still love that. What I love about the Bravia 9, as you mentioned before, it's actually giving you as close to that contrast as possible. Now, that's just Sony, but FOMO, TCL, Hisense, Samsung, we thought that we would be switching away from OLEDs. But I think what's interesting is OLED kind of hit a wall last year. We thought it
Mhm.
would take over. Now, do you think it took a step back simply because of production costs or market share? I guess before we get into that conversation, the one I want to really ask you, FOMO, is how do you go from OLED to mini LED, though? How do you
What
do
you
it?
started, yeah. I mean, right what you said, 4,000 nits with a purpose. And so you have to remember, TCL and Hisense are blindly going into 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. I mean, it's kind of like, how fast can we go? But there was no purpose. They
Yeah.
simply were trying to awe you with nits. And what happens when you do that is it's just bright, but then if it's not accurately bright, it ends up looking kind of weird, right?
It's washed
So
out.
Sony has a purpose, which is how closely can this 4,000 nit match their new reference monitor at 4,000 nits? And so they specifically tuned the Bravia 9 to match pixel for pixel brightness to the reference monitor, specific scenes where they know this scene is supposed to be 4,000 nits here, 3,000 nits there, 1,000 nits here, 0 nits over here. That's on the reference monitor. They tuned that TV to hit those points on the Bravia 9 to that new reference monitor so that
Yes.
when new movies are shown or graded on the reference monitor, when you watch on the Bravia 9, no other TV can be as accurate as that Bravia 9, where we're talking luminance accuracy, color accuracy, all of that. It is literally matched that reference. So the other brands, TCL, Hisense, Samsung, they don't have a true purpose other than, okay, we're going to go as bright as possible. We're going to avoid tone map because it's so bright.
Yeah.
Our job is done. And somebody's like, not so fast. You need to make sure that color accuracy, skin tones is also matched to this one single reference monitor that can do this, the 3110. So given that context, so the G4, it gets bright above 2000 nits, but it's not claiming to match a reference monitor. It's claiming to be the brightest OLED money can buy, whether you're watching sports, playing games, or whatever. And because it's so bright, it's the best tone mapping OLED you can buy, which I agree with. I'm so impressed by its tone mapping. Now, the S95D comes close because it's QD OLED, but the G4 ultimately has that impact that S95D doesn't have, and I recognize QD OLED has better color luminance than it does in some scenes, but overall, most people will get the G4 because of that HDR impact. Well, if HDR impact is your thing, then Bravia 9 takes that core from the G4 and another notch. So as an
Yeah.
HDR impact fan, so we're going to contingent this claim to that. If you want HDR impact, I think the Bravia 9's core purpose is accurate HDR impact without losing the other color accuracy, shadow detail, or without losing it too much, right? They're able to have that compromise, but boom, maximize the impact to the 4,000. If that's what you want, which is what I want, the Bravia 9 is a no-brainer. Now, if you're just watching streaming content, whatever, you know what? The G3 is fine. Like, don't even go above the G3 or the S95C or the
Yeah. Or
S89C.
C series or whatever you want to do.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, they are great. But
Yeah.
now, if you're talking maximum HDR impact, you have a couple of choices, right? The G4, the 9, even TCL Hisense, the poor man's Bravia 9. Now, I'm
Yep.
getting the U8 end, so we'll see how good that is. And
Me too.
at the end of the day, you have
Yep.
options. But I think Mini LED, like the original question, has it caught up? Would I consider it? I'm definitely considering the Bravia 9, and I will have a final decision once we have it side by side. But I can't believe this there, and I'm pretty impressed by it.
Well, not only that, FOMO, it seems like when I'm talking to Sony, I have an interview coming up with Rob Brennan that I've already shot, is talking about their choice for Bravia 9 wasn't just a choice, it was a must. They didn't, they went for that for a reason to reach that height. But seeing the Bravia 9 with the reference monitor, Hugo there showed us. What people don't understand is that full field brightness means nothing. Even
Oh
low
wait,
explosions.
for those who don't know, let me interrupt you.
Sure.
Hugo is the man that was the head dude designing the new 3110
10.
master
Yep.
monitor. That's
Yep.
his baby. And he was there to show the master monitor off. And then he was there to also
Yeah.
confirm that Bravia 9 is darn close. I mean, he's
Yeah,
like,
so
wow.
what a gift at this Sony event. Obviously, shout out to everybody: Rob Brennan, Mara, Jack, Yu-Gi-Oh, everyone that's there, Andrew, everybody we met, Kenny, the whole crew, everybody there was
AT,
awesome. But yeah, exactly. JT, Nicole, Jazzy,
Larry, Derek.
Larry, the whole crew, and then Pablo. Can't forget about Pablo. But standing
Yes,
next to
he was there.
Hugo and Pablo, these two guys, especially Hugo and obviously Pablo,
The
has been
hardcore engineers on the
the
TV and
engineers that.
monitor side.
So when you talk to them, but Hugo is like, as he's showing you, he's standing next to you, and in the scene, it's the 4,000 nits hits in the sun. Now everyone will say, "Well, aren't you going to be blinded?" No. What it does is instead of the sun being a blotch on an OLED, it would be a blotch, or on a really bright
Yeah,
QLED, a blotch of white.
bright. Yeah,
Even
just bright.
even on a QD OLED, on the reference monitor and on the Bravia 9, the whole sun was still visible. The gradation, and then when you go down
Hmm.
to the face stays at the same brightness of the others. So being able to tone map and keep the brightness where it belongs. So I think people have a misconception of what brightness means. They think, oh my God, I'm going to need sunglasses. Absolutely the opposite. The brightness stays where it belongs. The rest of the image has the shadow detail. That's what I think
Yeah.
is different than the Q900D. The Q900D, once you and I pressed the brightness, it was almost too bright and the whole screen was bright, which we saw against OLED.
Yeah. So the 900 was struggling where it has to make a decision. Should I give it the specular highlights, but then have blooming? Of course not. So I'm going to control the blooming and crush the dim the specular highlights a bit so I can control the black levels. And so you're
Yeah.
seeing it err towards just black levels, which eliminates that bright specular highlight. The 9 promises that those highlights will be there without compromising the black levels. I mean, there
Yes.
will be obviously a touch of blooming, but it's
Touch of blooming.
managed and less noticeable. And we'll see in The Greatest Showman, of course, that scene we all love.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I love that the Bravia 9 designed their technology to address that very compromise. And that's what I think Rob Brennan mentioned. He goes, look, the compromise is crush the blacks, but you're gonna have perfect blacks, but that specular highlights dimmed, or give you the full specular highlights, but guess what? Lifted blacks, right? And
Yeah.
they think the Bravia now has that compromise downwards close enough to OLED. You
Yeah.
accept it. And we saw the demos, and I'm like, the first thing I looked at, the black bars, they were there. Okay. Already,
Yes.
you are where TCL and Hisense is. That's what they focused on, is black bars and black bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're there. And so now you have the processing.
So you can, in short, you can say yourself that you would go from your personal OLED for your daily watcher, you and your family. I know you guys got short throw projectors. For me, I love the Bravia 9. I think it's head shoulders above where mini LED has been. Yet I still am able to say the G4 is my favorite TV of the year. I've gone on record saying that at CES. I love the prototype. I love what I saw from the Bravia 9, but I'm ready to buy the G4 83-inch right now. And I have an 83-inch OLEDs. I have 2 of them. But my thing is I think 83 is big enough for what I'm doing. And as a gamer, I don't care how good your LEDs are. They do take a hit in game mode. So that, for me, gaming isn't about blooming or even pixel response. It's about that contrast in native content, native 4K, 144 hertz. But to your point, FOMO, seeing the 900D do very well in console gaming, you think if the Bravia can get close enough, then for most people, it'll be great. But you nailed it with this. The fact that the 85-inch is bigger and more affordable is where LEDs we thought were going to live. I never thought that the flagship would be that affordable at that size.
Completely agree. Yeah. I mean, Sony has a reputation for charging quote unquote the Sony tax. So I expected it to be matched against the G4. Oh, they're both 6,500. You know what?
At least
G4 is going to the de facto value, quote unquote, because you get all this performance for the same price. Well, Sony's like, wait, hold on. It's $5,500, $1,000 less.
That's crazy.
And then you throw in some discounts by Black Friday, and now you have a TV that is approximately $1,000 less than the G4.
Yeah.
If you're not a gamer, you are recouping all of that in the form of content watching with not too much of a compromise to gaming, right? I mean, 144 hertz, I got you. The ultimate infinite contrast, HGIG, all of that, the latency, I got you on the G4.
Of course.
But I bet you the Bravia 9 is going to be close enough that most casual PS5 gamers, which is a lot of people who buy PS5, they're casual, right? They're like, hey, is the Bravia 9 going to be good enough for gaming? I predict it will be. Now, we're going to have to game with it for sure, but I predict it'll be fine.
Now, the real question, FOMO, is how about at the same size? Because obviously that value dilutes a bit at 64. Oh, I know the Bravia 9, it starts at 65. The Bravia 8 will be 55. I'm sorry, the Bravia 7 will have a 55-inch. But I guess my point is, when we start talking about 65 versus 65, we know the value disappears. 65 is relatively expensive for the Bravia 9. Then it bumps into the C series, it bumps into the S90s. Now, pound for pound, same size, where are you?
So same price. Essentially, right now, the G4 at launch, it's $3,400. The Bravia 9 at 65, it's around $3,300. So pound for pound, it's the same price. Now, so this is hard. For me, if I didn't have my other TVs, I already have OLED, I have the S95D, I get the Bravia 9 to add to my quote-unquote collection. But if it was to be one TV to rule them all, it would have to be the G4, right? Just because I do value the infinite contrast, and it's the same price. However, if you're not planning to buy a sound bar, you may consider the Bravia 9 if sound is
Great
important
sound
to you
quality. Yep.
and that whole immersion is important to you. The Bravia 9 is, I mean, I don't want to say guarantee, but I'm pretty certain will be the best TV audio system money can buy, bar none, this year at all sizes 65, 75, 85. If you're getting a TV and you're willing to give up that infinite contrast of touch and you just want the full package, the Bravia 9 will have it. If you're planning to get a sound bar and all that good stuff, then the G4, hey, you don't care about sound as much, fine. Then that will give you the image quality you need with all the sound from the sound bar that you can get matched to it. But if you want one TV to do it all for the movie experience, I think the Bravia 9's audio may also carry the day as well.
Well, in the meantime, while we're talking, the Bravia, I should say the Sony A80L, 83 inches behind me in sunlight, and it looks phenomenal.
I'm sorry to say that does not look like 83 inches, man. That looks like a
I
cute
know.
42-inch
Well,
TV.
it's actually like 20 feet away. But my
You
point
need to
is, for
walk
me,
back there and start stretching your arms so
so
people can
yeah,
see.
but when I still walk into a room like Value Electronics where all these TVs are, OLED still just grabbed me. And being a big
It
fan of
does.
mini LED, why the Bravia 9 is so attractive is not because it's brighter. It's because it's
Yeah.
blacks, and it's because that infinite
Yes.
contrast.
Yes.
But many people have been asking us this question, FOMO, as we're 25 minutes in, and we'll stop here, is can I make that switch? And I will tell you right now at the moment of this video, my answer is no. I can't make that
Okay.
switch. I could easily go up the 5 inches, or I'm sorry, the few inches from 83 to 85. As much as I love the Hisenses and TCLs, I would never buy a 100-inch mini LED until the quality gets much better in terms of local dimming and processing. So for me, I cannot believe that I'm the one that's stuck with OLED, and you're now this mini LED heavyweight champion. That's like, you need 1,000 inches, baby.
And I'll tell you why. I know my family, right? We as enthusiasts, I mean, I'm a pixel peeper. That's my job. As a reviewer, if I just said, oh, it's good enough, then every TV is good enough, honestly, right?
Yeah.
Above $2,000, literally every TV is excellent. But for those who are paying that $3,000, the G4, 3,300, the Bravia 9, 3,300, then you're going to ask me, wait, what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you take that out. I will guarantee you that my family, meaning my wife, she will prefer the Bravia 9. The audio. She loves the color science on the Sony. Consistently, she's able to choose it among the 4 or 6 TVs I have playing. She's like, hey, is that a Sony? Nails it every single time.
Yep.
So there are certain things to her that's important. Out of the box, she loves that Sony color in filmmaker mode or in movie mode or in vivid mode. It doesn't matter. Sony preserves their color. It doesn't matter if you're in vivid mode. It's still a Sony. Whereas, as we saw, the G4 in vivid mode is like crazy, as well as dynamic mode on the Samsung. On the Sony,
Yeah.
not as bright because they want to preserve some of that white point that is
Each one's
close to
watchable.
filmmaker
Yep.
mode.
Yep.
Yes. And so for her, it'll be the Bravia 9 because she always says to me, look, I don't know what you're seeing. I think it looks phenomenal. And
Yeah.
we're talking the X90L even. So for those who think the X90L look pretty good, the Bravia 9 will knock your socks off. And for
Oh,
those
yeah.
like you know, I'm a gamer. I've got the C9. I love the C9. Yeah, stick with the G4 because you have that gaming. You cannot give up 144 hertz. That period. Let's just call
Yeah.
it what it is, right?
Yeah.
But if the Bravia 9 was capable of 144 hertz, I think it may be a more difficult question for you.
Absolutely. And this is where I'm going to leave it, and this is where I'm going to cause FOMO. We're all, and this is where I'm saying about us. So now I'm talking
Hit me,
directly
baby.
to.
Hit me.
So this is where I'm definitely talking to OLED owners, because these are the ones that are giving most of the hate to Samsung and to Sony. The monitor is out in the wild. It was released 6 or 7 months ago. Filmmakers already have it. They're already sold out of them. Can't even get one. The reference monitor is being used to make this content right now. 4,000 nits.
To that point, I'm trying to get one. They're like, FOMO, you're like 3 months out. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
So, and 4,000 nit content is already available for it's being made. So, all right, I had to pause for a second because my demo material ended. But you were saying the reference monitor has been released. It's capable of 4,000 nits. Now go with what you were saying.
And I was saying that not many people realize all of this content, when it was graded on the 1000 nit reference monitor, right? It was supposed to be 4,000. They thought, wait a minute, the TVs aren't capable of properly tone mapping 4000 anyway. One. Number two, then who's going to watch it? Why waste our time? So let's just grade it down, trim it down to 1000, maybe 1200 nits. Now that the Bravia 9 is out, Sony Studios has a chance to go back and remaster that, because when they showed me Alpha, as it should have been released at 4000
Yeah.
nits, I asked him, wait a minute, is this on Blu-ray right now at 4000? He's like, I don't think so. This is the original grade that we wanted to release it at, but we didn't think it was possible at the time. Now you're seeing what it should have been at 4000. I was like, you have a whole bunch of movies like this, don't you? He goes, oh yeah, we could just go back and remaster like it should have been mastered
Yeah.
with this new monitor now. And so it might come sooner rather than later, in my opinion.
So there's the FOMO aspect of it. Could you imagine now I have the infinite contrast, I have my G4, it's not really 3000 nits, it's 2000 something. You have your S95, we have our OLEDs, but I know 4000 nit content is plentiful. And I know it's out there. That's
It's
when
out
I
there.
think the OLED crew, before they go and buy right now and grab an OLED, you should wait to see what the Bravia 9 can really do. Because I
Mhm.
do think even I would have that FOMO if I wasn't in this
Oh, wait,
industry.
Brian, we have to finish. I know you're, it just hit me right when you said that. We also have to address everyone who's commenting right now. Oh, those guys are Sony shills. You know it. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
so,
feeling right. I'm like, am I a
yeah.
Sony shill? Like,
You know what somebody
what am I
said? You know what
doing here?
somebody put to me? This is why I wanted to do this video. They said these guys have all but said mini LED was dead last year. They get one free trip, and now they're back. I'm like, dude. I was like, I've
We
heard it
got
said. I wanted
we
to see
got a gift certificate to Sephora, right, Brian? Shop experience Sephora for these two dudes.
I got a cologne gift bag. So yeah, they mean it's so funny. They're like, oh, so I was a Samsung shell, I think 2 weeks ago. LG shell. Now I can't wait till Hisense
When you switched
sends me a
your
TV.
position on the S95D anti-glare, hey, it's pretty good. See, Samsung got to him. Samsung sent him a gift bag, right? And then you shifted. Oh, you know what? FOMO announced the G4 is his favorite TV of the year. Oh, LG got to him.
LG, yeah. So they're like, yeah. So Brian got a free trip. Now he's a Sony guy. I'm like, dude, depends on what part of the year. But the Bravia 9 is definitely something special. So is the QN900D. We see LG's QNED, QNED lineup, but Hisense and TCL, to me, they're brute forcing brightness. They're going to be fine with their products. But I just found it
And the
fascinating that,
price, Brian,
oh, dude,
$1,000. The poor
1,000 yeah,
man's
but 2,000
Bravia 9
nuts
will
for
win.
but
Oh,
2,000 bucks for freaking 100-inch
for the 100
TVs.
inch, yeah, which
Yeah,
is sold out still. Yep.
sold out. So real quick with LG, 83-inch G4, nothing is going to be able to compete with it. It's a loan.
No.
And though it's expensive, it's not expensive for what it is. Because let's in context, the
Well, sold
83 inch,
out again. We have to
yeah,
emphasize they're not having any problems. We were at
no,
Robert, and
and
there were two of them, and Robert, they're spoken for. So we'll let you use it in your
yeah.
streaming, but the minute it's done,
So
it goes
I'm
out the
going.
door.
Here's the funny thing. I'm going back there tomorrow to shoot the 83-inch. The one I shot is gone. So I have to
Yeah.
actually. They're going to unbox another one because they're calibrating them. But look, the 83-inch G4 this year, even with the new processor and MLA, is exactly the same price as last year's 83-inch G3. So that is already, they're not raising the price on that. Also, the fact is the Sony A90J at 83 inches just 2 or 3 years ago was 8,000. Just for context. Now
Let's
the
just stop right there. Take a deep breath. $8,000.
8,000.
Only 3 years ago. That's 2020, 2021,
Yeah.
A90J. It won the shootout, and now it's like the old man, the senior citizen, not even available to buy, right? But it's still a good TV.
It's still, people still ask me
We're
about
not
it.
even talking about it.
Yeah.
People still
So
asking, but you can't even buy it.
now here's Sony one ups it. This year's
Yeah.
Bravia 9, at the price it's selling, it's only a few $100s more than last year's 85-inch X95L. That's with this
No,
whole.
it's actually cheaper than last year's
I
X95L.
thought Wendy said it was a couple $100 more, maybe 200 more,
You
or it
know
might be the
what?
same.
Could be, could be.
Could be either way. It's in
Continue.
the ballpark.
Continue your thought.
But they
Yeah.
could have charged Z9K prices for it. I think people would have understood, and they haven't. So
They
I
expected
think
it. Yeah.
so for OLED fans, I would say if you love OLED, it's gonna. I would still say wait for the Bravia 9 because of this 4,000 nit content. I'm still not ready to personally buy it. But then again, You and I are different, FOMO. I mean, the A80L behind me is only 6 or 7 months old. We are in this industry. It's very different about what we buy. But me personally, on what I view every day, if I'm gaming on it, I'm still in the OLED camp. I still love the infinite contrast. Also, back to what I was saying about 83-inch FOMO, 85 and up is all LED. LG has one option. They have two. They have the 97-inch G3. I'm sorry, G2, the upcoming G4, which will also be about 25K. And then the Z series from a few years ago is 88. So without MLA, and is also 25,000. So you really can't count those larger size OLEDs unless you're wealthy. But I think mini LED is not just dead, it's more alive than it's ever been. Because back in the day, FOMO, OLEDs were too expensive and they were too dim and too small. Now they're brighter and large, but again, now they're too expensive and too small. If you think about it. QD OLED maxes at 77 inches.
QD, yes. And I think a lot of people are saying, oh, if it was 83 inches, I'd buy it. Well, the question is, would you really? In the sense that at the 65-inch size, you have the G4 and the S95D and the A95L from last year. At the 77, you still have the S95D. And every size point that you have a QD OLED, people chose the G4. So how does that make an 83-inch any different, other than possibly QD OLED could be cheaper, right? So if we take price out of the equation, it's just pure performance. I still think people would choose the G4 because there is a certain brightness to this G4 that people think, you know what, I will give up a little color luminance for that extra pop. And that's a fair decision. I would not criticize you for that at all. I did, and that's why I awarded it my HDR Impact TV of the Year, because I'm an HDR guy, so it's my favorite TV. But I've told people countless times, if you're a color accuracy guy, the S95D would be more color accurate. But then if it needs to be at closer to 2000 nits, the G4 gets you closer to that than the S95D, just with a little bit less color. And I will take that compromise because I think the HDR Impact is the intent of that scene for HDR Impact type movies. But again, you know, the very beautiful artsy movies, okay, maybe not.
Maybe, but to finish it off, the one elephant in the room that no one even figures out, though, and then we'll finish with this, that 77-inch size throws a monkey wrench in everything. Because I would never go with a smaller mini LED versus a larger OLED. So the fact that there's that one 77 inches larger and an OLED, that's a whole nother discussion. But I think for right now, FOMO, your take on it is you would recommend a mini LED to OLED owners, and you would make the switch.
I have been. Actually, many viewers have come to me, you know, outside private chat, even during our streams. Hey, I'm considering a G4, but I only do streaming. I watch HDR movies. Gaming's not a big deal. Should I wait for the Bravia 9? And to every one of you, I say yes. What's the rush? We'll be getting it. Like, okay, when's the launch? The release date? It's end of May. So I'll have it by early June, possibly before M-Wave, maybe for M-Wave. I'm reaching out to Sony, trying to get it for M-Wave. But ultimately, it's only a few more weeks. Wait, people, let us get it right. It'll be at Value Electronics. Brian will be there comparing it side by side with a G4.
With all sizes. But I think in the end, FOMO, both of us are saying, whether I'm swayed by it personally, I would still tell people to wait. You're saying wait. So in the end, the question of the whole video is the Bravia 9 good enough to recommend over an OLED? Right off the bat, we can tell you, yes, it is. For OLED lovers that are really stuck on that, I'll never be able to convince you. It's much like plasma versus LCD. But for the majority of you, I think it's going to be an absolute winner.
And to that audience, the OLED audience, the G4 gets you so close to what the Bravia 9 wants to do. Don't even sweat it. It's like those who got the Bravia 9, you know, they got the reference monitor experience, but the G4 comes close enough, but you preserve all that you love about OLED. You didn't give it up, and you got 144 hertz, right? So it's okay. It's not like we're telling you the G4 is the wrong decision. Dude,
no, I love it. I'm buying right now.
Any of these TVs, any TV you pay over $2,000 for, I'm never going to question that decision. Unless it was a $2,000 Vizio, right? But other than that.
A Vizio at the end. We got to hit Vizio. All right, FOMO. But that's a great conversation, guys. Thank you so much for watching FOMO. Check out FOMO's channel. Thanks for jumping in, brother.
Thank you, buddy.
Talk to you.